isn't as it ought to be there. And it ain't us.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the death.
Right.
And it's the serpent. Those are the things that aren't as they ought to be. And we can actually sense that there's something that isn't as it ought to be. But the serpent convinces us that it's us that isn't as it ought to be. The thing that isn't as it ought to be is his voice and the accusation and the word that he talks about us and the death that he uses to try to accuse us with. Those are the things that aren't as they ought to be. We're actually recognizing there's something about this that isn't as it ought to be. It's just that he twists it up and gets us to think that it's us.
Right.
When it isn't us, it's him and what he's saying and the death that he brought into the earth. Those are the things that aren't as they ought to be. So even as you sit there feeling something isn't as it ought to be, you have a right feeling there. It's those things, though, that aren't as they ought to be. Right?
Yeah.
And I just feel like this intensity in you is going to like roar like a lion.
Amen.
And swallow that word and this thing that the serpent tries to do up. That there's just like a mighty roar that's going to come out of you. It's almost like I can see the sound waves in the air shaking when this roar are going to come out of you. And it's going to be like an expelling of everything that the serpent has ever tried to accuse you with or ever tried to say. It's like this roar that's going to come out of you is going to shake the sound waves so much that it could even like bring down a building. It's almost like you're an X-person, like an X-Men.
Yeah, that's right.
It's almost like you're... what's the gene, the X-woman gene? It's almost like there's this powerful thing inside of you that you haven't exactly wrapped yourself around yet. Sometimes it comes out in beautiful ways and you're so happy about it, but other times it comes out and you think you don't know what to make of it. And it's like this thing is being, this power inside of you, man, it's going to come out of you and it's going to swallow those things up. I hope you know the one I'm talking about.
I do,
Gene.
yes, right.
Yeah, she stopped the waterfall,
Yes,
when
exactly.
the dam, and then the one, the apocalypse, where she rose up and shined and just obliterated
That's right.
the serpent. That's God. That's coming forth in you. God's bringing it forth in you. There's a mighty force inside of you from your union with God.
Amen.
And I can see it. I can see it conquering. I can see it overcoming. And I can just see what it looks like when it comes out of you.
And we can see the smile back on your face.
I'll share